All right, so the Mesh's top offender is actually one of my favorite reports, and it's extremely important for performance. So what we see here are the worst families in terms of performance, and we have a window where we can see the individual family and a window where we can see all of the family in the context. Now, just this single family right here is responsible for 10% of the model, or 9.51%. And it's about, well, rounded up here, it's about 3 million triangle, 2.6. There's 385 of them, and they're, let's say, 7,000 triangles each. So when we open this in Revit, we can see it's actually a CAD import, and it's more like a manufacturer model. You know, basically all the worst families in Revit are usually manufacturer families. So we can see here it's a hollow channel, so an extrusion with the plugged modeled in, and a bunch of really silly, useless details. So what that means is, how do you fix this? You go into Revit, you get rid of all this silly, useless profile detail, and you just plop a rectangle there. You get rid of all the hollowness, all of the little weird angles in here. So it's quite easy to take this family and purge all of the useless stuff in here. So if we hold Control, we can actually select more than one family at a time. And what we see is that our top 5 families are responsible for 30% of the total geometry of the model. So 8 million out of the 27 million triangle in the entire model. So by going and editing 5 single families, we're going to be able to speed up the model significantly. And if you really need to have that high level of detail for some rendering, simply create some fine level of detail in Revit, and then medium and then coarse for your families. That way, when you're sending it to be shared with the world, you know, you're not sending the chairs with the rivets and the screws all modeled in. You're sending a chair that is slightly more square, has less of these silly curves in here. So that way, Revit allows you to have complexity and simplicity all within the same model, and you can control that. Now, just a little tip: when you export from Revit, make sure your detail level is at medium, or you can control it also through the more discrete way here, more precise way. So you can say, hey, I want everything at medium, but I want my light fixtures to be fine, for example. So you do have access to that. One thing to keep in mind is that when you go to fine, your structural elements will be hollow and have curves on the inside. That's really useless. That's for like a detail level. So make sure that your structure is not using the fine level of detail. And also be careful, because your structure, if you go to coarse, your structure and your pipes and your ducts, I believe, will just become lines. Therefore, they will disappear from the model. So medium is usually the sweet spot between coarse, medium, and fine. Okay, if we just look at the color here, we're looking at the totals, but if we look at the color, we can still identify really problematic families. So there's only 9 of these families. They're responsible for about 3% of the model, but look at this family. It's just completely ridiculous. This chord here brings no value to the project. There's really no reason to go into this level of detail. Nobody needs to see this level of detail here. This is completely ridiculous. So get rid of that, simplify it. Please don't just go and blindly download manufacturer models, because you're going to wonder why your entire project is so slow and you're going to blame Revit. Usually when you have a slow project and you go inside, what you usually find is huge CAD files in Revit. So people who don't work in Revit, and also terrible families that have been imported from manufacturers who are the absolute worst creators of family in the entire industry. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know why it's there. They just want you to use their product, and they're going to create a giant mess in your model. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're letting the manufacturers do it for you, you're in for a terrible surprise, and you're not going to understand why everything is so slow and unshareable. Okay, let's think real quick. Perhaps we are looking at these family names and we don't fully understand what we're looking at. So what we can do is we can bring in, for example, the name of the category. So if I bring that here, all of a sudden I see, oh, okay, this is casework, this is a sprinkler, this is a pipe, and so forth. So it's really going to help you understand if you want to tweak it a little bit. This is a great thing to bring into the slew of data that we see here. So I recommend that you go through this and you identify the families that are just slowing everything down. Here you'll see which model they originate from. So this is a report that's quite easy to share and allows the owners and the collaborators to understand why their decisions may be slowing down everybody who's trying to work collaboratively. So use this report wisely. Also, of course, if you're using VR, AR, or any kind of real-time engine, this is a crucial report to use and understand, because this model, we could probably go from 27 million to about 10 or 15 million if we just spent half a day redoing some of these top offending families. There is no reason for the sprinkler to have this much detail. It could literally be a little cube up here, and this extrusion could be a triangle and nobody would ever notice. All right, that's it for this report. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.